It's a beautiful Tuesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Mariah Afolabi Brown. As always, I have my co-host here. Hi, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Why
Hello.
you two building? How you doing?
Yo. Good morning. I'm very fine, thank you.
Sure, you look a bit solemn.
I'm solemn? Oh my goodness, I don't think I'm solemn. Well,
You look beautiful in blue,
Oh,
light
thank you.
blue.
I just thought I should say that, Nigeria, with our bad leadership and our terrible politicians, we are very lucky people, because can you imagine if we added earthquake to our matter?
Like it. Or flood.
Yes.
Or flood, like what's happening in Indonesia?
Indonesia. Did you see that? I saw a small video
God
of an
leave-
imam
God-
praying in the mosque while the earthquake was going on. And a lot of people were saying our own earthquake is our political
Politicians.
parties and our politicians.
The echo defection, I forgot to
Echo the campaign.
Echo defection, echo impeachment.
Because this is really, this campaign thing is really, it's painful to just see. Because for me, sometimes I think about that, most of our leaders don't lack integrity. I can't hold you to something and say, yes, this is what you believe. You know how somebody's an Arsenal fan, and you're an Arsenal fan from generations, passed on to you from generations to generations. Your entire,
have a
all your
sense
family
of
history
loyalty.
knows how Arsenal started. Everybody,
It's really
that's
bad.
how it is abroad. But here, today you are Arsenal, tomorrow you are Chelsea.
I mean, I blame us. It's, we decide
I
how
think
these people...
it's our character.
Reminded me of when I was coming back, I was in the same plane from Dubai with Team Nigeria, young, I think they're about under 21 or something, and when we all arrived, I complained personally that as a Nigerian, I shouldn't be made to queue up for so long to enter my country. But guess what? They made the Team Nigeria do the same. There was no special treatment. I feel they deserved it. They've gone to represent Nigeria as a team. They've gone
hard.
to serve us. They've worked.
Let me give you one gist.
Then the immigration officer said that you've gone to chop our money. You did not even. Waiting na carry come. Waiting na carry come. You not carry anything.
Let me give you
never-
one gist. Let me give you one gist. There was one match in the stadium when I was much younger, and it was Green Eagles at the time. Green Eagles, they were losing. The people, they started supporting the team that was winning. By themselves.
No
They
sense of
started
loyalty
abusing
beyond
their
politicians,
team.
even down to regular
sense of loyalty.
Nigerians.
Same
We're supposed to feel like
We're
these people
not
have gone to
pa-
serve
we're
us.
not patriotic.
Patriotism. You should respect them. You should not say, welcome back to the country. Clap for them. Make them feel
Exactly.
like you appreciate what they've
So
done.
the same thing. Unfortunately, that's how it's playing out in our politicians right now. They're campaign like it's like no man business, and it's really, really pitiful. Unfortunately, we gotta go on a break. What are you guys doing though?
Today is Mrs. Honorable
Yes, Honorable.
Yabode Karim.
Yeah.
Of the Tiosa local government. Today is her birthday. She
Today's
gave
her
us
birthday.
donuts last
Donuts
week.
last week, yes. And she's giving us donuts
Oh, wow.
tomorrow, hopefully.
So we
Hopefully
should all
get
be
it.
here.
So happy birthday to her.
Happy birthday,
birthday,
ma'am.
She's
ma.
been sending us donuts for our
Or
audience.
maybe better still chicken.
Like,
Oh yeah, we're watching
Thank
our
you.
weight.
she's giving you donuts. They're not even happy they're giving you something. I think asking for chicken.
You said you are watching your weight. Isn't it better?
Let's
you
have
have
a break.
For the
When
audience.
we come back, now that we've created that, maybe we should send chicken, Sha. We'll be right back. I needed this coffee. All right, so we're going to start very quickly with the punch. Saraki, other National Assembly leaders hold emergency meeting today. Picture here of the earthquake, thousands evacuated after dozens die on the Indonesia island. Oil theft, or 10 jailed for 12 years, forfeit shipped to federal government. Lagos trader running from scorpion falls into a 100-foot well. Tanzania appoints Amunike as national team coach. Defection, Akpabio meets Tinubu in Abuja. Woman fakes her own kidnap, demands 15 million naira ransom from her husband. Obasanjo laid foundation for bad leadership in Nigeria, says Oshoba. Adeleke presented forged school testimonial to INEC. Plaintiffs tell court. Our dancing senator.
That is already
At
in
least
the
he's
Senate.
certified in dancing. That one we can guarantee. But anyway, let's talk about the other human interest stories.
There are two human interest stories.
Yes.
Which one do you want to take?
No, you take punch.
Okay, let me take the lady that fell into the well.
Right.
In front of her room and parlor, there was a well that they covered with planks, and they all used to sit down there and gist. And
Right.
this day she had just cleaned it when she now saw a scorpion. And but she stepped on the plank and now fell.
She's a
inside.
Togolese, Togolese indigen. And
So her
Togolese
husband and
lady.
kids have come to Togo to inform the family members. Very sad story.
But the why I wanted to take this story was because Lasema had said, look, when these kind of things happen, call them immediately. Don't try and
I
rescue.
think they did actually call them. They called the fire
They tried
service.
to rescue
Her?
her first. And they said maybe in the rescuing of the lady that maybe they had dislocated something. That's why she died.
Well, how did they try to rescue her out of a 100-feet well?
Yeah, that's what I'm
I don't know.
saying.
They
What
said-
I read was saying that they just called the fire service and before they
No,
came.
they called the fire service after.
They had tried rescue.
The other story of the woman who
The kidnapped lady.
kidnapped. Who has that story?
Oh, I have the story.
please
So
go on.
this woman had
Faked her own kidnap.
well, she faked her own kidnap. Long story short, she said her husband had gone ahead to marry his second wife, and she has 4 kids with this man. He never takes care of her. She had asked him for 500,000 naira.
So that was her way of getting the money out of him.
Yeah, that's him for 500,000 naira.
They had a mentally unstable
They
child.
had a mentally unstable child who she takes to the psychiatric hospital. So
Right.
she now called the husband to say, or someone called the husband to say that his wife and child, 80-year-old daughter, had been kidnapped on their way to the hospital. And he informed the police. Police found everybody out and realized that she was
Traced
the
the cause.
one. Yes, she was the
CP.
one.
Ibohimi.
She
Yeah.
That's good for the police.
They always
Okay, it's good for
Is it
the
not
police,
Lagos?
It's good
yeah.
for the police.
Our
It's-
Lagos CP is
I
working.
think that if any woman finds herself in that kind of situation, you should go through the legal means. There are actually legal means with which you can compel
Yes.
your husband to take care
Unless
of
you
you.
didn't marry him legally,
Don't-
sha.
don't-
Unless you're a
This
side
husband
chick.
says that
She
this
said she was
woman.
the first wife. She
Yeah.
was his first
But
wife.
this husband says that I don't have any money. She keeps asking me for money that I
But
don't
if you can
have.
marry a second wife, you should have
Let's
something.
move on to the. Let's
How
move
much?
on
He
to
has 4 children for the guy.
I'm saying. Let's move on to the nation.
Boyfriend.
Very quickly.
Yes.
Allegedly.
That's a
Who helped?
different story. Akpabio
I'll tell you the
Tinubu.
story I read.
I know. I'm just telling you. There's another story that is similar to that one. Let's not go into that. Akpabio Tinubu meets as PDP threatens action. Picture here of Asiwaju Tinubu and Senator Akpabio. National Assembly leaders meet ahead lawmakers recall. NBA scope polls now August 19 says President. How NYSC students died in Taraba. U.S. investors Ibeto to revive Niger-Sem.
Okay, so as much as we're trying to avoid political stories because
Right.
it is just so heartbreaking as citizen of Nigeria to know that I can't see my leaders fighting for my interest. The drama continues to play out where Senator Akpabio, minority leader for the PDP, is
It's officially announcing tomorrow.
is courting the opposition. And we're seeing the drama play out. So he went to London, and now he's back in Abuja. He had a meeting with Tinubu, and we're hearing that he's going to decamp. They've already said it. Like, he hasn't said anything, but the news out there is that he's going to decamp tomorrow, and it's all part of a drama to balance the number. Because currently in the Senate, PDP seems to have moved into being the majority. They are 52 against 50. So APC needs to do something to get back in power.
APC keeps claiming that they are still majority, and they're trying to balance that the influence they have in the north, southwest, and now they want to get some stronghold in the south and southeastern part.
Southeast.
So
All I'm
Mr.
here- all
Akpabio
I'm
is
saying is
obviously
politics.
But I just wanted to, is it true, though, that they said they are blackmailing him?
Well,
to
there are different
join?
Well,
people.
they
Is
have
it
a case.
possible?
They've been
How do you blackmail someone?
They've been an ongoing investigation since he left government.
Right.
Ongoing, and we didn't hear anything
Since he
about
left
it.
Governorship.
Governorship. He's still in government. So since he left governorship, they've been an ongoing
They
investigation.
found millions of dollars in his house. They found ammunition in his
said
house.
they-
He was
they
arrested.
have
The
account
case is in
details.
appeal court right now.
Exactly.
It's been
Why
there for
would you
about a
even
year.
want somebody
So-
like that to join your camp?
So
if
we
what you
don't
stand
know-
for is anti-corruption?
So there was a
going on.
picture. I think
But
somebody
the reason
sent
why
the
people are
picture.
disputing if he was blackmail because he was really grinning. He's really happy.
And he's not supposed to be happy with the opposition.
So if he's happy like that, he's showing that.
Excuse me.
Maybe it was.
You haven't seen the cartoon I've seen?
Yes,
That's when you are
CP becomes saint.
a corrupt
I've seen those
politician
ones.
becomes a saint once you join.
Let us move
Really
on.
fast.
All those cartoons, don't mind them. Moving on to Telegraph. Presidents in Nigeria risk total government shutdown. Mother of 4 dies procuring abortion for pastor lover. Who has that story?
I do. This is a sad story. I need to get the name.
That's
Yeah.
not the story I had in that one.
Okay, so this is a pastor of Christ Chosen Church of God. His name is Mbeken Elvis. He's been arrested. He's a 32-year-old pastor. He's been arrested.
He's 38
because of-
years old. It's the lady that is 32.
Okay,
Yes.
what I read, she's 38, he's 32. I thought
Okay,
younger
right, go ahead.
lover, older lover. Anyway, so the woman had had a 6-month romantic relationship with him, which started when she went to him for prayers to have a baby, and then she got pregnant.
After
And so
4
since then-
children,
After
oh.
4 children. So since then, she had been in a romantic relationship with him. She got pregnant, she tried to take it out, and died in the process.
Her husband is all the way in the abroad.
Yes.
And so the family is saying that the bride price we paid you, please
return it.
Return it and asking the pastor to pay for the bride price. And then now they want him to handle the burial ceremony because he's the one that could
Although the pastor was
But
saying
why are
that
they
he didn't even know
arresting
she
him?
was
Is he the one
pregnant.
that did the abortion?
He said he didn't even know she was pregnant or even getting an
He has
abortion.
eaten the
It's
forbidden fruit.
no, but it's not a criminal offense to have an affair with a married woman.
And so
It
there's
is
a
a
power
moral
play.
offense.
There's a power play from the families to get him to do
Police.
something.
Yeah,
But, no, but
it
it's
is
a
not.
case of
No,
he
but I
said,
don't
she
understand
said,
why
because
he's
nobody can
arrested.
prove
No, but
that.
why is he arrested?
Can we
Since he's
move
not
on
the doctor
to
that
we're
did
not debating this conversation. Just saying
There's another
what the
story,
paper
belly
said.
fat, please.
Oh,
We can't take that story. Let's move on. We have very few minutes left. Daily Sun, Taraki Dogara,
Really
INEC
fat,
to
oh.
reach compromise. Akpabio to join APC. We talked about that already. 116 Nigerians in Libyan slave camps. That was Bikadabri speaking. Southeast lawmakers spitfire over Ekwerimadu. So according to her, they've actually identified quite a number, 116 Nigerians, and they've identified the camp they're in.
Yes.
And they're trying to bring them. Some
Osama
of them, about
detention
24 of
center.
them are saying that, listen, we die here.
Yeah.
We're going to Europe.
We are going to
meet Europe.
Now, as in-
Others are saying, we will come back. So because some of them are really, really suffering. So they've
The
volunteered
issue
to
is
assist
majority
those.
still want to go. They don't want to come back here. The level of hopelessness.
The mindset
Yes.
of the people that
Our
do
people
this.
here, my team members here in this our studio told us, Morel, if I travel abroad, I die
Okay.
wherever it is, let them come
I
back.
mean, recently you had a case
In
like
Ru-
that
in Russia?
in your band. Someone
you're-
defected or decamped or ran away.
He just ran away. He didn't defect. He ran away.
He ran away. Took him abroad and he left.
20 minutes before the show.
Can you imagine that?
Sad.
I hope they catch him.
Let's
and
talk
bring him
about,
back.
let's move on
I
to
hope so. I
Vanguard.
sent Donald Trump a tweet.
Yeah, I saw the tweet. Vanguard, Taraki summons emergency meeting of National Assembly leaders. Any picture here? The NYSC declares 3-day mourning for 9 drowned corps members. Who wants to take that story?
You remember we took the story
Yes,
yesterday.
the story
9
yesterday.
corps members had died in Taraba State. So the NYC flag is being flown at half-mast, and the vice president is sending
I have to go out to them.
yes, so
Major headline
that's
story.
Taraki?
The National Assembly have called. They taken the shot. They are reconvening today at 12 noon from their
but
2 months
Taraki has
recess.
summoned his people, oh.
He's-
Not
no, no, no.
reconvening.
They're not reconvening,
It's not the full recon, but like the
They have
Senate
a meeting.
leaders and their, what do they call them? The major meeting leaders, they are going to get addressed by the INEC official because we don't have approval for budget for our elections yet.
So they're trying to
Even though
resolve
we've-
those issues of verments, issues of the addition, the budget they wanted to do for the
Supplementary
elections,
budget,
for supplementary
for the
budget,
election.
and
For
then
2018.
other
I'm wondering why we had to wait till now, a few months to the election, before we decided to do a supplementary budget for elections.
Because they have known that there is election since last year.
We know every 4
In
years
fact,
of
since
election.
4 years ago, they've known.
So why have they not been planning for it gradually?
So this is not something that has been sitting on their desk.
We are not.
Because
We don't know.
normally Senate call
We are
on the
not
day, August.
discussing the matter. We are only telling people what the paper said.
Okay.
Please.
We are just saying
That's
our
all.
own.
You don't have to say your own. Let's go on a break. When we come back, our hot topic today, we ask, should parents give their children mobile phones, especially when they're under 11? And later, let's discuss brain disorders. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So recently, a leading psychiatrist warned parents not to give their children smartphones before they reach secondary schools. According to him, social media actually makes children anxious and depressed, and time spent online can leave them vulnerable to cyberbullying. Now, what are your thoughts on this? You can give us your call, 070-806-68014. You could also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. Interestingly, just yesterday, my daughter, 6 years old, was telling me that in her summer camp that she's going to, that there's a 17-year-old that has a phone. I'm like, you're 6.
At 17.
That's
long.
a long
How are
way.
they even in
So
the
when
same
is she
summer
going to
camp?
get a phone? I said, you know what? Once you can minus 17, probably that time we can think about it. But she's thinking that, well, she know what exactly can I be using phones for? She was not asking me questions about what she be using. I said, well, to research. She said, no, I want to be calling my friends. I said, you have no friends to be calling yet. I will take you to their houses if you need to stay.
Yeah.
But do you think it's appropriate to give kids phones, especially in our age today? Mariam, want to go first?
Yeah, so for me, first of all, there are two things. A phone is different from social media and being online. So I would give my child like the basic phone. You're able to make calls, and that's just to be able to connect with my child, like when I'm not there, or maybe a child goes for holiday somewhere. I would like to be able to reach my child. But it's a big no-no to being online, social media. You have no business, especially you're, less than 10, 11. What are you doing on social media? Yes, I believe that you'll be exposed to things, because the thing about phones is you have to be able to monitor the use of that phone. And the mobile phone is something your child can carry from one place to the other. How are you able to monitor what he, inadvertently finds out, you know?
Well, some people are saying that in this new world, social media is so important because the earlier you expose them to it and help them to know what it is, then they can make right choices. Like, because, I mean, growing up, sometimes they say you let your child know what these options are, because if you don't let them know at home, if they learn social media, learn how to use smartphones outside, that's when there's a possibility of them getting the wrong information about social media. But if you start at home, where they're seeing you do it, maybe that at least the kids
It is even illegal for a child to be on social media. It is illegal. Yeah. Facebook, they don't allow it. Instagram, it is illegal. If you want your child to be on Instagram, I believe you have to do that account yourself. Your child cannot go there at 4 years old and say, I want to join Instagram. They will just...
I mean, even as an adult, you know the sort of things that I get, from people that I do not know, really crazy, weird messages.
So we agree social media not right. But what are general phones?
We all agree concerning social media. I think we would all agree concerning basic communication. Now, before, when we used to have like a proper landline system where your house had a phone, there was no need for them to have a personal device that they would hold around everywhere. You know that once they're at home, I know that there's a way I can reach out to them. But let's even talk about the talk time, the time that children spend on devices. It's easy. I know people that once their kids come back home, oh, you're disturbing me. Take. So they hold the phone and all day they are playing games or doing some activity. The idea is you're trying to, instead of TV, because you don't want them watching TV, you give them the phones, they are playing games all day, or they are watching, letting them spend so much time on a system as opposed to connecting with people. So they don't develop social skill, like ability to interact with people one-on-one. So generally, before you are 11, you should spend more time being a child playing.
Like recently, I just got my son a personal laptop. And the father, trying to be nice, now downloads all the games in the world on the laptop. The boy was 6. I was looking for this boy, I could not find him 2 days because he was there playing all sorts of Candy Crush and,
My cousin was telling me.
I had them all deleted.
I was my cousin on, I think on Sunday, Tina. She was telling me that her son, I mean, she has a baby. She has about, I think, 7-year-old or 8-year-old son. He was online like 3:30 a.m. She woke up at night and the boy was there, stuck with the tab with him all through. Now, that's what we're saying. Should we expose our kids? Because listen, they need information.
Yes.
The world we are going to right now is they need to have access. Because one of the things that I was taught, especially when I was in the US, like, don't store information here. Know where to find it. So for those students abroad, they give you all the systems, the softwares. Go and find the information. So the kids must be able to research and get information. So if you don't expose them early on how to Google, how to search for things, how to have information, and know how to manage the resources, how would they get? Is it where after they now get in secondary school they start doing that?
Okay, to be
So
fair, my children know about Google, but they have to come through me. So we come to mommy. Mommy, where do we?
Because you are available.
Yeah, I have
a lot
to
of parents
be.
are not available for that.
No. Then I won't let them go on.
You and I were discussing yesterday about the fact that there's too much information out there. It is good for children to get that information first from you. When they feel like you're ordering something from me, then they go and meet a maid, makes them vulnerable. They meet their driver. oh, my driver allows me to play with his phone, and then they can start touching. You know, so you don't want your child to become very vulnerable in that space. So let them understand, this is the phone. You have an hour with the phone to play around, but it is monitored and guided. Also, don't let them find comfort in maybe the security man, maybe the maid, maybe the driver. That way, that connection doesn't...
Let me ask you a question, YK. If you don't let your children have access to these things, doesn't it arouse their curiosity?
You see, because I was going to go from my own experience with my daughter. She didn't have a phone until my mother passed away, and I needed to get in touch with her. If I was in the office, I wanted to make sure she was okay, and it was a pure water phone. But she had a computer very early, about 13, 14, and she could Google. But I had already trained her well to know that don't go and Google porn sites. So I monitored what she did. I also trusted what she did. But it also expanded her knowledge because she had this thirst to learn.
Okay.
I mean, from her, before she graduated, she had already Googled what she wanted to be. She wanted to be a paleontologist. Then she looked. No money.
Let
me take this call. He's been holding for a while. Pascal, are you there?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for calling.
Yes, I don't really see anything wrong with giving a child a phone, but what I think is you should censor what they do on the phone. You can have games there, but how will I put it? There are things we call firewalls in the computer. When you give them anything, smartphones, you should have a firewall and watch whatever they do. Monitor them, because that is the right thing to do. They should learn how to use a phone from their earlier days, because this world, we are moving on.
All digital.
It's a world of technology. So if they learn it from their young age, it will be good. But what we should just do as parents is to censor it and watch them and guide them on how to use it.
I mean, recently, our producer was actually coming home around the time where the Otedala fire was happening. And her family, there was only the kids at home. They were trying really hard to reach their mom, but they were really worried because they knew of the fire. They had no way, the kids didn't have a phone to reach her. So she was really trying to get them to know that she's safe. But you see, in that kind of situation, that's why a phone might be required. But some parents just feel as if it's too early to have kids.
Well, like I was saying, my daughter, this is from Google and everything. She accessed what she wanted to be. She now found out that chemical engineering is the highest paying job. And computer engineering is the second. So she said, okay, but she will do computer. Me, I was still saying, please do history. She looked at me. There's no money in that.
Yes.
So she was able to develop herself.
She knew how to get the information because you don't need to cram everything up there. You just know how to get it. But as parents, most importantly, we must get informed. Because if you don't have the information, these kids are so smart. They are so smart. They will scam. You would be sitting down there thinking, I know what they're looking at, and they've gone through what they shouldn't go through. So we as parents must be informed also.
Let me take this call from Mike. Mike, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, please.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Morayo. What I want to say is actually unconnected to what you are discussing.
Okay.
What I want to say is that we are dying here in Isolo. The refuse collectors, which is Loma, they are not doing their work.
Okay.
In Isolo.
Can you please call them to this, your gathering, so that we can ask them questions? Why is it that they are not collecting our refuse?
That's in
They
Isolo.
don't allow us to patronize the truck pushers, and they will not come and collect this refuse. Okay. And we are not owing. For the past 3 weeks now, they have not been coming to our area.
All right.
Please.
All right, sir.
Want
We'll
to
see
talk
what we
to
can
them.
do to get Loma involved in that. Thank you so much for calling.
Okay, important. But back to our discussion. I remember when we were growing up, TV used to be, you had times that TV would come on. So by 4, I think, TV would come on. And I feel that now our children don't have that, where we're able to monitor and give them time for different things. So everything is just available and open for kids to get. So it now depends on me to give that time and the boundaries when you can when you can use the phone or when you can use social media. And because I do not have that, if I'm not always there, then for me, I feel that it's better for me to just not even allow you be on social media if I'm not there to monitor you.
We didn't touch on the possibilities of radiation when kids use all these mobile phones. But we're going to break now. We'll come back. We'll discuss the disorder in children using phones, aside from phones, also even microwave radiation. All these things causes brain disorders. When we come back, we'll talk about that. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. Everything we do, say, or think is controlled by our brain. So when our brain is injured, it has the potential to affect every aspect of our life. According to United Nations report, nearly 1 in 6 of the world's population suffer from neurological disorders. Joining us on the show is a general practitioner who is also the executive director and founder of Brain and Body Foundation, Dr. David Ajibade. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
You can call us on 0708066814. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. We're going to get into proper neurological disorders, but we were talking earlier about kids and phones. Do you think it's dangerous to have children use phones early, especially mobile phones?
Actually, left to me, I would say children should not put a phone to the air at all between the ages earlier than 8 years of age, really, because and your discussion, as I was listening intently, there are really good points. But the fact is, the WHO has come up with a decree that brain cancer can be caused by mobile phones. I mean, they've categorically stated that, and that's because the radiation that you mentioned actually penetrate the brain, of course. The skull is thicker in adults, so we have more resilience. We can still be affected by brain cancer because of the radiation. It's much worse in children because their skulls aren't solid enough, they're not well formed. So for starters, that would be a big no-no. I would say if at all they're going to use phones, they need to have train them to use a speaker or to have a wire.
Can I ask you this question?
Sure.
Because my mobile phone is a smartphone, and when I put it, it gets really hot, so I don't use it. But I noticed that I also have a pure water phone. Even if I'm talking on that phone for 1 hour, it doesn't get hot. So do you think that those have radiation?
The pure water phone, I'm assuming that's
The small...
Basic
smartphones.
non-smartphones.
Those still emit radio waves, but of course the smartphones, because of the Wi-Fi, because they're bouncing off, radiation is bouncing off cell phone towers and all those things, is much, much, much worse. And another thing about that is that when the phones the batteries are going down, they seem to emit a lot more radiation. So again, there's
You don't use your phones when the batteries are going down. Okay, let's move over to neurological disorder, because I have an uncle who passed on a few years ago. Great guy, no issues, no illness, hardly goes to the hospital, nothing wrong with him, and suddenly he had a brain tumor. They found a lump somewhere, and things began to deteriorate from that. There were no symptoms. We didn't know what was going on. Suddenly he just got dizzy, and they found a tumor. How does that happen, where people are diagnosed with a tumor in the brain, even without any symptoms?
How old was he?
He was, I think, was late 50s, almost maybe about early 60s, maybe about 59, 60.
It's still a mystery as to how cancer occurs across the board. What we know is that, and I'm not an oncologist, but what we know is that continual irritation, inflammation, stimulation, toxins in the brain and other parts of the body can eventually tilt the brain cells into being transformed into cancer cells. So what exactly happened in this man's case, we may not know. There could be a genetic factor involved. There could be some toxins he was exposed to. There could be some weakness here or there, something that he was constantly being exposed to, and that eventually turns it into a cancer cell.
So most people watching probably wouldn't understand what a neurological disorder is. I didn't. I had to Google it. So can you just break down what exactly what is neurological disorder all about, and what are examples of how it plays out in the body?
Sure. Well, neurological disorders are primarily disorders of the brain. So you have the neurologist who deals with disorders of the brain, and you have the psychiatrist who deals with disorders primarily of the mind. Okay, so a neurological disorder is when the brain cells or the tissues in the brain kind of like go wrong. So a perfect example would be Alzheimer's disease, dementia, Parkinson's disease, in the children's age group, autism, cerebral palsy, what's the other one? Seizure disorders. The key thing, in my opinion, the key thing, whether it's a psychiatric conditions, obviously, are schizophrenia, depression, mania. It doesn't matter whether it's a neurological condition or a psychiatric condition. The bottom line is that somewhere, somehow, the brain cells, the brain tissue is not working like it should. Now, we have developed tremendous technology and equipment to really detect the brain problems, but there are still many issues, especially in the psychiatric area, that you can't really tell by looking at an MRI or CT scan. However, they're there, and they're developing even greater and greater ways to look at them. But bottom line is that there's something wrong, physically something wrong with the brain tissue.
Right.
And if you can, and so one of the approaches that we're looking at too is not just treating with medication,
right,
which has been proven to be effective, in some cases not so effective, but looking at how to nourish and rebuild, put those building blocks back into the brain.
Can I hear? Oh, okay, let me go. So I'm listening to you and I'm wondering, do I just have like an appointment with a doctor every 3 months just to go and check and make sure that there's nothing in my brain? What do I do to make sure I do not get a disorder? What do I do to prevent it with my kids? You know, sometimes you hear somebody hit somebody on the head with a ball and then things just, so what do we do?
I think that's why brain literacy and brain education and awareness is so important, because there's so much that we don't know. I'm talking about the general public now, about how our brains work, the toxins, the things that can affect it for better or for worse. So it's really important that people begin to understand this, especially in Nigerians and Africans as a whole, because from what we've seen, we do have some, shall we say, disadvantages when it comes to brain disorders. For one, we have higher rates of these psychiatric conditions. Epilepsies are very big in Nigeria and in sub-Saharan Africa. So, and then of course, what we saw with our foundation, when we're looking at dealing with kids, is that many times pregnant women don't really realize what they're doing to their bodies. They take in things, or they have an infection, and they're like, it's not a big deal. Just pass it over. And the next thing, they come out with a child that actually we've seen parts of the brain actually being missing, because the woman just had a slight infection. She didn't take it seriously. She didn't go to the doctor.
So like what sort of infection would she have?
Yeah, I need you to finish
what kind of infection would
they were querying a viral infection, and they weren't sure what it was. Again, that's the problem we have. We're not really able to really detect and diagnose.
I think pregnant women shouldn't take painkillers as well. Because I noticed in this part of the world, a lot of women abuse their pregnancies by taking in painkillers, antibiotics. This self-medication.
Yeah.
I mean, I was so bad I didn't even take my iron tablets because I just refused anything. I just didn't want anything chemical in my body. But I was going to ask you, what is bipolar?
Bipolar depression is, as the name implies, there are two ranges. In some aspects of the depression, sometimes it's very mild and just very quiet and timid, let's put it. In other extremes, the same person could become manic, tearing things up, screaming, shouting, making a mess. So it's a person who swings from one end of the spectrum to the other.
Okay, let me go back to the issue of pregnant women, because when women give birth to autistic children, they tend to blame themselves. Was this something I did? What happened? What went wrong? Are you suggesting that these could be things caused by maybe something she took in, something that she didn't pay attention to, a diet, or something she did that might have caused this thing? Has it been proven that actually it could have been preventable for a child to come out as autistic?
There's a whole range of things that cause autism. And certainly we don't want mothers to start feeling guilty about what they did or didn't do. In fact, in some cases, the father too they found a correlation between older age groups of the father and autism. I would like to flip it by saying that there are things that we should be doing to really strengthen our brains, and then of course strengthen the possibility of having a child that is very healthy.
Thank you very much. You know why I said thank you very much? Because you see me, the age I am now, I am at the risk of, what are all those things? Those dementia, Alzheimer's, all those things. So just in case, What can I do to prevent it now?
The general, and that's a great question. Some of the general suggestions that are out there is you have to sleep better. They found that a lot of sleep, not having enough sleep, proper sleep now. When I say proper sleep, lights out, nothing,
I
no
have to pause
sound.
you for a second
No
because
interruption.
YK actually asked a very vital question. There are lots of people that actually need this information, but I don't want to cut you off. So let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we get the full answer of this question. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So before we went to the break, Mike had asked the question concerning especially people who are getting into that senior range, dementia issues, schizophrenia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and she's asking what are those things that she can start doing now to prevent those things from happening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're talking about sleep, very important sleep. Exercise, you need to move around. What they say is that if you strengthen the brain, if you keep doing the things that help the brain work better, so they advocate learning new things, crossword puzzles, exercising your brain, very, very important. You would take things that have been proven to help to nourish and build the brain back up. So obviously one of the things that people don't talk about much, which I think they should, is vitamin D3.
Oh,
Vitamin D3.
It's very important for the brain. You also need to take omega-3, a very good omega-3 fatty acids, very good supplement that has omega-3 fatty acids. And I think we have not done enough justice as brain researchers to really explain why this is so important. Because the brain is made up, if you take out all the water, 60% of what is left of the dry brain is made up of fats. Okay. And omega-3s play a huge role in composing, in being a part of that. So I think everybody should, right from age of 30, because that's when you plateau and you begin to slowly go downhill. So I think...
and all of us are above 30.
Yes. So omega-3, is that from...
Yeah, I even read...
That's the fat
The
from...
natural sources?
Yes,
fish, right?
Is it from fish or is it natural sources or is it supplements? Which is best?
Two problems with that, with just from taking fish. One, you don't get enough of the right dose. It's not nearly high enough. And two, you have toxins in fish.
Right.
Okay.
So I prefer to take from a very high grade, high purified.
Okay, so when you talk about, we've discussed the older people, but
people.
there are people that are young or people that are in childbearing age or people that are raising children, and we know that some of these things are sort of preventable from when you're young. So now you've confirmed to us that radiation can make children have brain disorders, right? If they get exposed to it before 8. Can you tell us other things that we're doing, that we're exposing ourselves to as mothers and our children, or food? What are the things we're exposing ourselves to that can predispose us towards these disorders?
Well, one thing I'd like to talk about, and that's a great question, and probably not enough time to talk about all the different things, but one of the things I'd like to point out to the most, because it's easy to do, I think we're just lazy about doing it, is your regular teeth brushing. Yeah. And not just teeth brushing, but flossing as well. People don't realize that there's a strong correlation between dental hygiene and brain disorders, but not only brain disorders, heart disease, premature abortions, miscarriages.
From not brushing your teeth.
From
brushing your teeth. If you don't brush your teeth.
Tell us how. I do 2-3 times a day, but I just want to know why and how.
My husband is the only one that brushes twice. I brush once a day. My kids don't. I mean, my kids have been pushing me to make them brush at night, but I'm too lazy to even get them to brush at night.
My husband does the brushing, the flossing.
Why is that so important, though?
Well, gingivitis, which is inflammation or infection of the gums, good. If your teeth are not clean like they should, they harbor what? Bacteria. Especially between the crevices and all that. What they found out is that those bacteria find their way into the bloodstream, into the brain.
Wow. And
they begin to form deposits, and they act as focal points for toxins and plaques and, in fact, form atherosclerosis. If you have atherosclerosis, it can affect the brain too, obviously, because blood flow is so important. The blood carries nutrients, it carries oxygen. Wow. If you're not having enough oxygen because of blockage of blood.
Okay, how can I flush it out, please, if it has gone up there? Is there a way to flush them out?
It's gone. It has affected Mariah Auguste. She doesn't clean her teeth.
What is great about the human body, and I love it, is that the human body has the capacity. Once you give it the right tools, once you put it in the right environment, it is able to reverse things. So it's never too late to begin to do the right thing.
Can you give us a few power brain
So
food?
if I start brushing my teeth at night now, morning and night, I'll be all right.
It might
My
help.
friends-
Take
help.
omega-3 and
Omega-3, vitamin
crossword
D3.
puzzles.
No, it's working at this cross of
Oh,
not me
okay.
yet. Not yet.
But like, what are the densely rich,
They say from
nutrient-based
30.
food that we can just start loading ourselves with, load our kids with to boost our brain?
Right.
Great.
Fantastic question.
You ask great questions on this show. Love it. So obviously, you can't go wrong with fruits and vegetables, avocados. I mean, and when we talk about vegetables, and again, when I mention things in public, I'm like, ugh, because it's sometimes so difficult to buy these things, to purchase these things. But we have to say that
great.
avocados are great. Of course, the lemons and the carrots, all these legumes, these are very, very important. You want to stay away from things like processed foods, cornflakes, even fried foods, because
Bread.
You eat cornflakes, you. So but you need to stop cornflakes now.
you want to reduce these things, because another thing you want to avoid is too much sugar.
Yes,
And what we know is that cornflakes and other things like that, I'm not going to mention any kind of noodles, but they put a lot of carbohydrates in your system, and this can.
Okay, let me quickly take this call from Lekon. Do we have some tweets, YK? Lekon, are you there?
Yes, good morning.
Very quickly, please, go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you live. Go ahead, please.
All right. I want to commend the doctor
Right.
on the show. I can hear me.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I'd like to commend you guys and commend the doctor on the show. You guys in the medical area, specialized medical area like the neurological thing, are really, really doing a fantastic job. Considering the medical deficit that we have in a country like Nigeria. Just about 2 or 3 days ago, I was talking to a friend, and it was obviously really sad. And I asked him what happened. I now told him that one of his neighbors that I saw about 2 or 3 days ago, very active, alive, and all that, was just complaining of a headache, and immediately the guy slumped and he died.
Whoa.
And to be honest with you, I've seen issues around that situation a lot of time, which you can further, enlighten the Nigerian public about the issue of brain aneurysm.
Thank you very much, Lekon. Let me cut you off there, because what are the symptoms you can notice just to suggest that you may have a disorder? Because I think that's what he was saying. Somebody slumped. You could have been, we heard of high blood pressure and all that. But in your own field, are there things we can notice to show that, okay, there's something going on here, I need to get it checked?
Yeah, just a quick point. Many things, by the time you start noticing symptoms, this thing has been must have gone on 10, 20 years, because the brain is very resilient, but very sensitive too. Some of the things you might notice, memory loss. You just can't. It's natural to forget where you kept your keys, but when you put your keys in the fridge and you go back to the
That's
fridge,
like all of us.
and you say,
You put your keys in the fridge?
No, I mean, we
No, but
forget
I
things.
forget things. I definitely forget things a lot.
Forgetful.
And so if you're under stress, just know that if you're under stress for a long period of time, you know that your brain is already being compromised. I mean, you don't even have to have any symptoms. I remember all the time when I was under a lot of stress at one point in time.
That means we're all compromised in Nigeria.
Okay, yes.
That's why
because
we need sleep. Sleep
I was
is
going
very,
to
very
say,
Let me
a
take some
little
tweets,
thing.
because we have very little time left. Go into it.
Yeah, I was going to take tweets, but gosh, I wanted to ask you.
Ayode,
My question here is, this is Prince Ernest. What is the perfect time to sleep?
Best times between 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock. That's when the body repairs and does the best of its fixing. So 10 between
So
10
sleep
and
before
3.
10 and make sure you wake up after 3. So between 10 and 3, make sure you're sleeping at that time, because your brain is fixing. Oh, yeah.
How about those of us that like clubbing?
Ayodeji says, it depends on the type of phone and the age of the child. It's not a bad idea. Andrew Instream said, I said this to Morayo last year. Eating processed food encourages dementia faster. Exercise, sleep well, learn new things. Good word.
Onwara is asking, please, I have a question about epilepsy. Is it also a brain disorder, and what can be done about it? I have a brother who has been battling epilepsy for 20 years, and
Ooh, we have
because
just
it was
few
spiritual
seconds.
attack.
Few seconds. Could you quickly answer that?
He's been on Tegretol but he still has attacks.
Yes, it is a brain disorder. You might have to go see another doctor to get the right, to make some medications right for you. But again, like I mentioned, some brain foods can really be helpful. In our foundation, we found that we were able to help a lot of children with seizures just by giving them high dose omega-3s.
Yes,
so,
and
proper
I
nutrition is
all of
important.
them.
So
that
proper
the brain
nutrition.
actually starts to deteriorate from 30.
Really?
I
Don't
read
feel-
many years ago that the brain cells stop reproducing after 30.
So they say we
start-
should sleep and
We
be
have to
taking
run.
omega-3.
Unfortunately, I don't have any
We
more
will
time.
start taking
But they've
omega-3.
they've told YK to be taking vitamin D3.
Help me tell them. You see, it's only YK they
You
are
don't have to be
saying.
doing puzzle.
Yes, crossword puzzle.
They'll have your brain.
Learn a
So
new
that you don't get
language.
them-
It's only YK they are seeing.
That's all
Doctor,
we can take.
tell them.
Unfortunately, tomorrow is our live audience show. Please
Yes,
come
sir.
early. We only have 30 seats. Come early so you can get a seat. And also, don't forget, please do not use unbranded oil. It's dangerous to your health. Have a fabulous day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Doctor.